You. Joining us now is Congressman Adam Schiff, the top of the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman Schiff, it's nice to have you with us. Thanks for the time tonight.
Thanks, Rachel.
What's your reaction to this this briefing, this meeting that has been scheduled for tomorrow? I know you've been critical. It wasn't clear to me until tonight that it's actually going to happen. Now that it is going to happen, it's just those two Republican members of Congress. What's your reaction?
Well, it's still not clear to me what's going to happen tomorrow. I was informed by the head of one of our intelligence agencies earlier tonight that the meeting or briefing tomorrow would be a bipartisan briefing at a Gang of Eight level, and that would be it. And I expect them to live up to that commitment. That is the right procedure if there's any information that could compromise a source or sources and methods. So that's the practice that has been around for decades, and they need to follow it, and I expect them to honor their word. But we are hearing conflicting things from the White House. If the White House somehow browbeat the intelligence agencies into submission, then it's another affirmation of what you were talking about earlier in terms of Jeff Flake's speech. Our democracy really is in deep trouble, deeper trouble than we might have imagined. And I think we have to look at the context here. This takes place at a time when the indictments are multiplying, the guilty pleas are multiplying, and the number of witnesses cooperating are also multiplying. And I think that has led the president to decide he needs to know the evidence that might be used against him. As Giuliani said, the president has a right to see the evidence against him. That's true if he's been indicted. And unless Mr. Giuliani has something to tell us, he has not been indicted. A defendant or a witness or a target or someone who's an innocent bystander of an investigation has no right to see the product of an ongoing investigation. And the members they choose to show it to is significant. You have a chairman who was forced to recuse himself earlier for working in combination with the White House. And in Mr. Gowdy, you have someone who's not even a member of Eight, who has no right to see the material, but often during the Russia investigation acted as a lawyer for the president. That is completely inappropriate, and they need to follow the procedure, and they need to observe our system of checks and balances. This should be Gang of Eight or not at all.
And Congressman, just to be clear about what you said right at the outset there, you said that you have been told by the head of an intelligence agency that tomorrow's briefing actually will be for the Gang of Eight?
That's what I was told. I was told when it would be, and I was told it would be at the Gang of Eight level. That the White House would open the meeting and then leave the room. And that's what I expect to happen tomorrow. No one has called me to contradict what I was informed by the head of one of our intelligence agencies. If we learn that through pressure from the White House or partisan pressure from the Hill, that the intelligence community has abandoned the protocol of meeting with the Gang of Eight, it will be another sign that our system of checks and balances is being broken down by this president. Not only members of Congress, but members of the Justice Department, FBI, and our intelligence agencies need to stand up to this president. As I have expressed frequently in my conversations with Rod Rosenstein and others, if they try to appease this president, it is just going to invite more demands from him. At some point, they have to say no.
Congressman, can you tell us which official, the head of which agency, told you that tomorrow's meeting will be open to the Gang of Eight?
I don't want to get into the specific cabinet member that I spoke with, but this is something that was conveyed to me and others in no uncertain terms, and I've heard nothing to the contrary, and I expect them to live up to their commitment.
One last question for you, sir. You referenced Rudy Giuliani's comments about the president, at least through his lawyer, believing that he has a right to the evidence that may have been collected against him, even though, as far as we know, the president has been indicted. Is there any protection if this Gang of Eight meeting happens tomorrow, if you're in the room, if you're one of the people briefed, if this confidential source information is briefed tomorrow, is handed over to some select members of Congress, is there any way to protect that information from ending up with the president and his legal team for use in their defense in this matter? Obviously, in any law enforcement investigation, it would be very improper to give information like this in an ongoing investigation, evidence collected by a live source in an investigation that hasn't been concluded. It would be improper for that to be conveyed to the subject of an investigation or his defense team. Is there any means by which that can be protected?
Well, first of all, Rachel, I don't think this information should be conveyed to Congress at all. I've heard no legitimate reason for this. except that the president and his lawyer want to see it. That is not a legitimate reason even to present this information to the Gang of Eight. So the first question to be asked during the Gang of Eight is, why are we even meeting? Why is this being initiated by the White House? But the reality is that all too often when the Department of Justice and FBI have capitulated and shared information with the GOP members of Congress, it has ended up being published on Fox News or through the Washington Examiner or other outlets of choice for the committee Republicans. After all, the whole point of this is twofold. It's to share the information with the president's defense team, as Giuliani made so abundantly clear. But it's also to pick a fight with the Justice Department, to make a series of escalating demands so that when ultimately the department is forced to refuse, as Rod Rosenstein said, that the department cannot be extorted, then the president has the pretext that he wants and needs to fire people. So we need to be aware of this. Ultimately, there's only one remedy. And I know people are saying, you know, as the minority, what can you do? At the end of the day, there's only one remedy, and that is to make sure the party out of power is not the minority, is to throw the bums out who are not living up to their institutional responsibilities and protecting our system of checks and balances.
Congressman Adam Schiff, who is the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, thank you for being with us tonight, sir. Thanks for breaking